Hey everybody, this is Carlos Ocelot, founder and CEO of G2 Esports, former professional gamer, and wonderful bodybuilder, as you may have known. Of course, you know me for that, pretty sure. And you're watching Dankan's channel. Thorin, my man. Enjoy.
Right, I'm here for another episode of Reflections, and my guest for this one is going to be Veggie, who is a coach, most famously of Polish teams in League of Legends. But I mean, for people who didn't watch the episode of Narrative Wake, you are Polish, but you also have an American accent, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was actually born in the States, so that's why. Yeah, and I went to school there for like 11 years. So yeah, I basically was schooled in America. But obviously, I've forgotten a lot of stuff, and my accent even has gone a little bit wayward, like into the European kind of region. Because, it's kind of embarrassing to come with an American accent to Polish school,
Sure. But as a result, obviously, a lot of this interview is going to be centered around the coaching that you've done with Polish teams. And then maybe at the end, we can talk about if there's something you want to change about that. I mean, I know it's something we've discussed off camera. So what I wanted to start with, though, is like a lot of people, I mean, let's face it, like coaches in the very early days of League of Legends, even when people were called coaches, they were more like a manager, or maybe they just were like I often think, actually, I know now it's going to be confusing because people are going to think of him as a real coach, but I often think of like the role that like Aaron Ayer used to play in some of the teams in Europe, where what he would do is, if he wasn't on an active team at the time, because he was a jungler and probably had a good idea of like basic tendencies of teams, he'd just help his friends out. Like if it was OG or something, he'd give them his advice, what he saw. It's just another pair of eyes, basically. But I notice in the early days, you're on the one hand listed as a coach really early on. I'm talking really early in League of Legends, but then you're also listed as actually playing as a jungler. So can you give us some insight? Like, what were the early days of League of Legends like for you? What was your interest in the game?
Yeah, so I started playing when I was at university, like first semester or something, because I used to play Counter-Strike and Warcraft 3, actually. I actually played in one of the clans in Warcraft 3, which was quite famous, Betson Voodoo Gaming. It was like a Polish kind of clan. I know some good players came out of there. So in general, I knew what esports was about, right? And I obviously was watching Golden 5 in the 1.6 days with old lineup and stuff like that. But then because we had like final exams in Poland, it's called Matura, right? So there was Matura before university, so I quit because I'm like, yeah, my grades are shit, right? So I quit esports, and then the first semester I'm like just joking around on university, and one of my friends is like, yeah, there's this new game, League of Legends. It was still in beta actually, right? So it wasn't even out yet. There were no seasons, there were no ranks, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna play this game because I'll get addicted. And here I am, 10 years later, right? So when it comes to my interest in the game, I don't know. I think on one hand, when I started off playing, it was kind of casual because I was just playing with my friends. But after, I don't know, like let's say when I started playing, they were like level 25 in League of Legends, like the max was 30, right? Back then, I started out at level 1. So in 1 week, I would have 24 and they would be like 26, right? So I just put a lot of games and a lot of hours into the game, and I just became interested in it. And because I knew what esports was, it was something always in the back of my mind where it's like, yeah, esports is great. Like back then, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. There was no career basic in esports because it was also after the economic crisis and all the problems with esports, like around 2010 and stuff like that, and games changing, right? So for example, for IEMs, Counter-Strike stopped being present, right? So it was a kind of transitionary period. And because I was playing a lot of LoL, all of a sudden it became like a kind of passion for me, right? I was just playing because it was more interesting to play at tournaments than just sit at home, right? And actually, as a player, I think I wasn't like mechanically the best. I was pretty old as a player, right? I was already like 22 or 23, right? So a lot of other guys, which I was playing with, who were very gifted mechanically, like Pookie Style, Celiver back then, DOTA Pro. So Creaton, actually, he used to play under DOTA Pro because he was from Dota. Sure. Overpow, right? Like these guys, they were mechanically gifted, right? So I naturally fit more into a role of a team captain, shot caller, and stuff like that. And back then, that's how the game was divided. You had just people who play and people who are telling you what to do. So I was in the second camp. And there weren't a lot of these kind of players in Poland. So I was a shot caller, basically, and I was telling the guys what to do. And that's why, like, in Counter-Strike, there's always the argument that the in-game leader has the worst stats, right? And, yes, like, you could say that maybe that changes. Maybe there are teams where the in-game leader does not have the worst stats and stuff. But in general, that's the approach which I hear, basically. Yes. I'm not a CS pro, right? So I guess I was a kind of IGL, and early League of Legends was really based on Counter-Strike, and especially in Poland, where everybody just looked at Golden 5 and we're trying to emulate this. Don't change the lineup. Stick with your friends. Half of the game is not playing good. It's being motivated. So there was a lot of focus on mental. So you would win, obviously deciding nice, kurva, because that's what we saw in Counter-Strike, right? So we were trying to emulate that. The difference is that, the Counter-Strike guys, they were like 25. We're like 16, or we have a 15-year-old in the team. So it's kind of funny. But I was basically an in-game leader, and I wanted to keep on playing, but obviously my play got worse over time because I didn't quit university. So let's say at the beginning, playing 8 hours a day, right? I'd go to university, I'd have 8 hours a day. That was a lot, right? I could play on the top European level. But after some time, for example, Jankos, I was there from the very beginning. I remember Jankos was nobody. I used to win with Jankos. I would stomp Jankos, right? But I was in the best teams. And I remember it was actually a short period, like 3 months, where I would be winning against him. Then it'd be hard against him. And then I remember how I lost a LAN tournament against Jankos. This was like 2012. I was playing in this team. It was in Reason Gaming. I was twice in Reason Gaming. So that's a UK-based org, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, so I was in Reason Gaming as a player. We went to Copenhagen Games, actually, as Reason Gaming. And after that tournament, there was a small LAN in Poland in Płońsk or Płock. I don't remember which city it was, actually. And that was the first LAN I actually lost against Jankos. And there was a mini rivalry there. I didn't even know about this rivalry, but after the game, he came up and, we're doing our handshakes and stuff. And Jankos is paraphrasing it in English. Oh, I guess you're not that good anymore, huh? So something like that, honestly. Right. So, and I was kind of taken aback because I'm I can see that I'm getting worse. So he was playing much more. And that's when you had to be serious as a player. So I couldn't be that serious as a player because at university. So that's why it was extremely natural for me to move into the coaching position. And obviously, the first time KMT back then played in H2K, actually, because VandeR and Jankos were twice in H2K. People don't remember this, but in the Polish team, they played in H2K at some Polish LAN in a Poznań Game Arena. It's a very popular Polish event. And I lost against them as a player. I was third semifinalist at that tournament, while H2K won against MYM in the finals. And they came after the tournament to me, and they're like, "Yeah, why don't you coach?" I'm like, "Nah, no, I'm gonna beat you next LAN." That's what I said, actually. And then the next LAN, I actually went and coached them. So from the first day I started coaching, I knew I wouldn't go back. So that's why, actually, even though I might not be listed as a coach, maybe as a player or a substitute, from that moment, so that was 2013, the end of 2013. I actually very quickly felt that it's a natural role for me, coaching, and I never looked back. I never thought about playing again. It was maybe a 2-week transitionary period.
I mean, the interesting thing when I was looking up some of the old teams you played with is that when I go back to 2012 and you're in the team, the ex-HCL team, where obviously you used to be in a team called HCL, and this is when they lost.
You know how it is with orgs, right? Yeah.
Sure. Well, especially in the Polish team, mate. That's the reason why people don't know that joke. When everyone makes fun of Kikis for being in a million orgs, that's just everyone from Poland, mate. Half the orgs, they just come, they go, they disappear, they don't have the money. But anyway, the point I was going to make was, if anyone knows the LCS era, every player in this team is a known player. It's Pokestyle, Selva, DOTA Pro, who obviously became Creaton, like you said, SuperAZE, who actually just missed the LCS era, but before that was... But the bizarre thing is...
Actually, yeah.
Everyone's playing the wrong role, mate. Pokestyle's the top laner, fucking Selva's the mid laner. What was this early team like? Because obviously everyone had a pro career to some degree in this lineup.
You know what? I really think sometimes that I was kind of unlucky in my player's career, because we would have these all-star lineups, right? I mean, look at this lineup. DOTA Pro, so Creaton, basically what was known as DOTA Pro back then. Creaton was a new guy. For Creaton, me or guys like Sulliver, we were the experienced guys that were teaching this guy so much. SuperAZE was actually one of these players. So now these people are like, yeah, Creaton, if he didn't break his hand, that guy was a genius mechanically. But back then, he was the new guy, right? We would always have this split in Poland where it'd be the Dota guys and the League of Legends guys. So Dota guys were Overpow, SuperAZE, Creaton, Niku. Maybe you know him from Gambit, right? Remember?
Yes.
So Niku, these were the Dota guys. So these are guys who played Dota and they went to League of Legends, and almost always they were really good at League of Legends, because they had the basics there, right? And they had a kind of Dota thinking style that actually pushed us League of Legends guys to think about the game differently. So
I'm sure they knew basic stuff like split pushing and stuff that we didn't have in the game back then, right?
Yeah. It was interesting to work with these guys, right? So in those teams, I really think we had very gifted players, and a lot of stuff really would fuck up before the most important tournaments. Like, let me give you an example. When there was a tournament, this was with the ex-HCL team. So I think Kikis was playing top then. I was in jungle. Sulliver was mid. AD carry was it VandeR? No, it wasn't VandeR. Yeah, it was Pookie Style and SuperAZE. Yeah, so that was the lineup for our DreamHack adventure. And let me give you an example. Nowadays, there are no lands. But back then, DreamHack, it was like season finals for us. It was like,
Sure.
Oh my God, it's DreamHack. It used to be a legendary place, right? Like everybody knew what DreamHack was. So for guys that are passionate in esports, DreamHack was a dream come true.
It's like a European championship. Yeah, I'd have all the big teams there, of course.
Yeah, of course. And because later days, the amateur team would play there when LCS happened.
Challenges
LCS, the biggest teams were there. Basically, it was always Moscow 5 and
CLG.
In the finals, right? So we were at those tournaments. And for example, what I mean by unlucky situations is there's 2 weeks to the tournament, and I had actually exams at university. And even though I had exams, I put in the most hours of solo queue, and I wanted to play there weren't scrims back then. Back then you would play the ladder 5 versus 5 actually, which is funny.
Ranked, sure. Yeah,
it's funny, but that's how it was. Like Moscow 5 was the top in rank 5 versus 5.
Yeah,
we were at the high. So I was like, yeah, let's play some more. Let's prepare ourselves for this tournament, even though I had exams. And the other guys, they didn't give a shit because in soccer, there was Euro 2020 then.
Right.
And it's like, oh, Poland is playing Euro 2020. 2012. I can't play today. Sorry. And these were the reasons why you would, for example, lose in a tournament. And we bombed out of that tournament, even though we had like 7K gold advantage against Moscow 5 and I think 12K against CLG. So it was insane that, I would be in these superstar teams and we would lose because of this. I'm sure if we, put in more hours, we would have had won games where we had that kind of advantage, right? So, the lineups look so good on paper, but those players weren't the same players they were now, right? Like, as I said, Jankos, I think, is the first second wave pro from League of Legends, apart from Creaton, who actually made something out of their careers. Because the old school pros was like me, Sulliver, Pookie, we've had our ups and downs, all right? Like Sulliver was in LCS. I was also Pookie now, did really good in U Masters, right? But we were the old representation. The new guys were Creaton, were Jankos, and these were the guys that actually were able to focus on their career. The problem back then was stuff out of the game was holding us back because it wasn't serious.
What about if I ask you about a few of these players that we've mentioned then? Because obviously some people won't know. So Creaton, as you said, DOTA Pro back then. I mean, I think he even amusingly renamed himself LOL Pro for a little while just to be a troll or something. If people forget, right, this is actually a player I'm very familiar with because when I first came into League of Legends in 2012, I wrote a really long piece about that team. He was in the Curse.EU team, which like for a brief moment, if people don't remember, they like beat Moscow 5 and did a whole bunch of stuff where it's like that should have been a team that could have gone on to big things. And this was a guy where this is why it's so interesting because in Europe for a long time until basically Forgiven, Europe always had the rep as like because it's the mid lane and solo lane region, it's not about the AD carry. The AD carry typically was like a guy who was like a yellow pink candy panda. Yeah, basically what Reckless is, like a less skilled version of Reckless, exactly. So it wasn't until actually people will think Forgiven that it comes out. No, Creaton was the player where I remember being like, dude, this is the European double lift. Like this guy is sick. But it's not only did he have this injury with his hand, but I also heard from behind the scenes, he was one of those people who like, I don't know why, but never was like super dedicated or something or had like motivation issue. What would you say about this player for people who don't know him? Because he's kind of like a missing player in history, like a what if, right?
Yeah, I agree. This was the Dota thinking. This was a guy who would push you to the limits. Because I don't know. I guess that's how you play Dota. I played Dota like once in my life.
If you play a carry in Dota, you just farm up basically. You become the super, like as it says by the name, you just carry the whole game if you do well.
I'm not sure if he played carry in Dota, but I know he was a young prodigy in Dota. So, when we're discussing Forgiven, everybody's like, yeah, this guy has ego. Yeah, Creaton had ego too. There's something about the ego players. They just do well and they just push you, to the limits. And this was Creaton. He was a young prodigy in Dota. He came to League of Legends. And as you said, LoL Pro, Dota Pro. This guy was like, you League of Legends guys are shit. Dota is the real game, And this was the approach you would have this guy in your team, and sometimes he'd be playing Dota, and sometimes he'd be playing League of Legends with you. So he was also like split-minded.
Right.
But I agree with you. He approached the game completely differently. Like when you're talking about these Dota professionals or ex-professionals, these weren't guys that would ever be in elo hell in League of Legends, because their mechanics were so good from Dota, from years of Dota, that they would, like, for example, like when I started playing, there was a time where I was like low elo, but then I went like high elo, right? Because I was thinking a lot about the game, I was playing a lot and stuff like that. These guys, they like had like 50 games, which is barely nothing, and they'd be in the top of the ladder, right? So basically, Creaton was just a mechanical beast, and he would always say, like, what are they, like, when I was playing him with the team, I remember when they would kill each other on bot lane or something, and most of the time, Creaton would come out ahead. He'd like kill. It was just killing on lane, right? Nowadays, in League of Legends, there's no killing on lane. You don't win 1 versus 1, right?
Sure.
And you don't win 2 versus 2. But back then, that happened, and Creaton every time would be like, "What are these idiots doing? This game is so stupid." Like you'd hear stuff like that during a match, right? And about stuff apart from out of the game, that's exactly what the problem was, right? Like back then I was kind of trying to seriously think about, if we keep on playing even better, maybe we can someday be as good as CLGU or Moscow 5, right? I'm like, I know we have the players, we just have to put in the hours. And those teams, I'm not sure about Moscow 5 because, I didn't have a lot to do with the Russians. But, for example, I talked about with Wicked on lands and part of CLGU, right? So I knew those guys pretty good, and I know that they were much more serious than us about the game. Like, when I would talk about Frog, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, we're playing with each other every day. We're talking about the game every day. As I told you just before, like, in our camp, in the Polish camp, he'd be like, oh, yeah, did you see the match? Yeah, let's not play these qualifiers for IM, because there's like three qualifiers, right? Let's not play the first and second one because there's a great match. Poland is playing, even though Poland was shit in soccer, right?
Sure.
Like, Poland is playing, and I'm going to grab a beer. So this is how it was, right? And with Creaton, there's going to be a small anecdote I always have about this guy. This guy was at the top of LCS in alternate, right? For like a week or two, right? So they came in, they were beating everybody, right? And, the first kind of professional approach is, so we keep on playing, we keep on scrimming, we keep on try-harding. Creaton's approach was this: oh, yeah, life's great. And he'd blow 3,000 euros on an after party. I'm serious. One after party, he'd blow 3,000 euros. Like, ask Kubon from MYM about that after party. And I think it's kind of sad. I honestly think that Creaton, he could have been a top player in Europe, AD carry. If from things outside of the game, it's so weird for me because this guy was groomed from the Dota scene that it's esports, right? You're supposed to be the best. And he got to the top of Europe and he stopped wanting to be the best. I don't know why.
Just a mystery. Yeah. The other guy the other guy I want to ask about is his bot lane partner, because this is a player that's very infamous. But actually, I don't think he ever actually had the hype, because like I say, he never made it to the LCS era. He was in the Curse.EU team. Yeah, SuperAZE. Now, for people who don't know, whenever I talked to any of his ex-teammates when I was researching this article, I actually did interviews with all the players to get like inside info, they were all telling me stuff like, listen, he actually was in some ways like brilliant, like he could do things that, like, he understood things about the game, but then they all would say basically, like, it's kind of nuts. Like, you can't stay in a team with him for some reason. So what was the deal with this guy? Okay,
again, out of game stuff. When people talk about Poland, about like an ex-communist country, there's something in it. There's some truth in that, because this guy, as you said, he would be creative. He would kind of be a genius, and he'd really push you to the limits, like as a teammate, right? Like if you did something wrong, it wasn't like, hello, my friend, let's discuss your jungle route, right? He said, you're shit. Look, you didn't do this. You're an idiot. And you'd feel like an idiot and you'd fix that, right? But of course, it was a high pressure environment. The problem with this guy was he could go days missing. You wouldn't know what happened. He wouldn't be there for days. And he'd have a lot of explanation. He'd have this really weird approach to life, to thinking, to anything. Like you would talk to him like, what do you think about, for example, I don't know, what do you think about CLGU in this map? What do you think about they do? Like you discuss a match you watched with him, right? And he'd like say, that's not important. It's important that right now in Poland, something political happened, and he'd go over some like, did you know that it's not honorable for the president to say this?
Right.
I was like, what's going on? Right? We're talking about League of Legends. So honestly, he would like kind of be spread out thin. And he actually, I think if this is correct, I think he ran away from his parents' house because during a boot camp, one day his parents came looking for him. And they're like, hello, do you know who Piotr is? And we're like, yeah, we have no idea who this is. Like this too old and, couple come, right? And who is this? Like, do you know who Mr. Peter is? And we're like, yeah, he's here. And they told him to go home. This is honestly what happened, right? So I agree with the sentiment that he could be good in the game, but you see the problem. You can never be in a team with a guy like this because
can't rely on him.
This week it's okay, but 2 weeks later you have no idea what's going on. So there's a lot of people in the Polish scene that you couldn't rely on. The second wave pros, so for example, Jankos is a guy you could rely on. Yes. And there were some players like this, but a lot of the olden guys, you just couldn't rely on them out of the game.
I want to ask actually along those lines, since you obviously, like a lot of people in Polish esports know about the Golden Five and some of those things. If people don't know who aren't familiar with Counter-Strike, in Counter-Strike, the basic story goes like this. Like the best countries typically were the Nordic countries. It's actually still basically the same in Counter-Strike. Yeah, maybe you have like some super team from CIS region, but that's because they have a bazillion players. They're like brute force. It's like China in League of Legends. Like if anything, China should have had 10 times more than Korea. Look at the amount of people playing. So in reality, right, you have the best countries, and basically, Sweden, Denmark, these are like the equivalent of what Korea is in League of Legends. Like they should win, and if they don't, something's wrong. Like what's going on here? So out of nowhere came Poland with one team ever, maybe like one or two player changes in like 15 years, and basically this one team won the most majors actually of any team in history. Like even though like the country of Sweden might have won more, like as a one team, no one ever won more. So what was very interesting and made it almost like a fascinating case study for a lot of us in Counter-Strike is when you looked into it, it was a totally different philosophy. And as far as I can tell, some of it's cultural. So basically what this team did that was different from every other country was all the other countries that had a lot of talent, like obviously Sweden, etc., is the second something goes wrong with a player, like the fastest way to fix a problem, if the problem is that player, is to remove that player. Obviously, you just get someone else in who doesn't have that problem, who's really good right now, and you try and make the chemistry work, and then you're right back on top. What this team did instead was one of the reasons they weren't ever like the number one team for a bunch of years in a row, but won all these championships, is they would just through thick and thin stay with this lineup. And I'm talking through like, listen, those Swedish guys who were kicking each other was stuff like I was saying, like one of them just played badly for 2 months. The kind of stuff this team was staying together through was mental, mate. I'm talking like fist fights, like
stuff.
People don't even know. Like secretly, one of them would have been kicked for like 2 weeks, but then that a LAN hadn't happened during that time, so then they'd come back and apologise and get back in the team. And we wouldn't know this internationally. We would just think, oh, they must be. We used to stupidly think, dude, they were the best friends and that they were all like fucking the coolest guys ever. We didn't know at the time how wild they were behind the scenes. And the crazy thing is, though, somehow they had this mentality you're talking about where they knew, like, this is why they call it the Golden Five. There's something about this lineup, though. Like even if I hate that guy now, even if he's playing badly for 2 months, like I've got to find a way to get to 3 months from now when it might come back around. They somehow knew that like there's something about keeping that core together. And the reason why this is also bizarre is because I can tell you from standing behind them. Like I was used to standing behind like Swedes just sit there politely and you go brah when someone does something good. Americans maybe do like the classic like stupid hype stuff like woo, let's go boys, like some stupid like American football shit. But then what's bizarre is these Polish guys, dude, like that famous thing where certain languages like Chinese or Russian, if you don't speak them, they always sound like everyone's angry, right? Yeah. I thought that was just happening with Polish, and I was like, it's weird how the language sounds. And then someone told me like, oh no, they're actually just literally cursing each other out. Like that guy just said to that guy, like, you're a fucking dog, like why did you flash me?
One like clip from
I actually recorded it, yeah.
From a LAN tournament, I think in China, because the seats were empty, where I think Lord is like shouting at Kuben, why did you throw a flash on Nuke? Right?
Yeah, I basically recorded this clip and someone did the subs for it. Yeah, and the subs are outrageous. Like put it this way, a modern day pro in any game would be like pure toxicity and you'd be out the team. Like they'd be so acceptable. And this was just every day for them. So what I wanted to ask you was
on Twitter. Sorry, we didn't mean to hurt anybody. Yeah.
Was it like this in the scene? Like, were people very fiery in this way? Was this the idea of problem solving? You just fight the guy in the middle of the game?
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I know that clip, it's an obscure clip. Yeah. In theory, what do I care about Counter-Strike? Because everybody in Poland lived on that. Like, as I said, League of Legends, everybody was thinking we're gonna try to fight the Golden Five in League of Legends. Like that was the approach. It would always be like, yeah, but you know, we can be like the Golden Five, right? So MYM actually did this better than like my lineup. There were 3 lineups in Poland. It was the MYM lineups, my lineups, which is weird mix of players, and the Dota lineup. There were always 3 lineups in Poland. So we had actually in League of Legends a lot of like, how should I say this? A lot of rivals, you know, and that helped boost the scene, right? But look, I'm going to give you an example from ROCCAT days. So this is a team that's in LCS. And I actually wasn't with the team during the first weeks because I was at university, so I was online, right? And there was an argument. I won't say which players, right? Let's just say that one of them is still in LEC. So one of the players was playing. Okay, wait, if I say this, you're going to know what the role was. Okay, look,
I can probably guess who they are anyway. But keep going.
He was playing any support, okay?
Right.
Playing any support. It's level 1, right? And the opponent is somewhere there, and so one of the guys is like, flash stun, right? He just gives him a flash stun. But obviously, VandeR, he like, hesitated for a second, right? And he didn't do the flash stun. And the opponent got away. Like, nothing really happened. He didn't lose his flash anyway. So nothing really happened.
Right.
A pause happens, right? The pause, as I said, I'm in Poland and they're in Germany, right? A pause happens. And exactly what you said right now happens. What the fuck are you doing? I told you to flash stun, and immediately I'll take SuperAZE. Like 2 weeks into the season, I'm gonna kick this guy. I'm taking SuperAZE. And then they pushed themselves, and one of them hit the other, And 2 days later, I came to the boot camp, and it was back to business. I'm like, yeah, why are we not playing? I'm like, because because after the situation, they didn't want to scrim for 2 days, right? I come into the boot camp, I'm like, why are we not playing? And they're like, oh, we're just waiting for you, man. Let's go play. And that's it. That was, and this kind of conflict solving stuff happened all the time in Polish teams. I'm not saying, everybody was fighting and hitting each other, right?
No.
I mean, this did happen in French teams also. Like there was this guy, Linak, in the French, and he also punched somebody out of land, right? So, and it's not like everybody was fighting all the time. That was like one of the worst kind of things that happened in that team. But like every day, like just cursing at each other and stuff, that was normal. Honestly,
it sounds like though. I mean, this ties into a topic that often comes up very often on talk shows, which is European versus North American mentality. Like one thing I'll say about this is the part you said at the end that was key. There is that's where people don't understand the cultural difference. Is a few days later, the whole point is you weren't joking there. There was no big deal anymore. They were ready to play again. That was just a problem from 2 days earlier, and they addressed it instantly. Listen, in a very aggressive way, which if you were from America would mean like, whoa, this is a guy fucking crazy. Like, what's he doing? Like,
I'm gonna go to court.
But the point is. There wasn't resentment. Like it kind of did. It resolved the issue very quickly, right?
Yeah, and once they started winning, they actually bonded them more because the guy would say, "You know what? I'm sorry about that," and the other guy would be like, "Yeah, it's okay. I got pissed too," and they loved each other even more, and they played even better. Because, like, let me say this: in teams in general in teams, it's always the same. If you win, everybody loves each other. If you lose, they hate each other, right? I guess the Polish approach is that it's a little bit more on this end and this end. So if you start losing as a team, you really hate each other. If you start winning, you really, everybody's like not loving each other romantically, right? But like everybody's like hyped and there's the team spirit is insane. So for example, the clip we were discussing with Golden Five and Counter-Strike, like they would be losing, they'd be that pissed at each other, at everything, at themselves, at their teammates, at everything, right? That one guy, Pasha's like he has to go to the bathroom. He was pissed. Really pissed, right? Literally, right? But then they'd be winning, and you'd see the brotherhood coming together, and you're like, this is the same team, like a week later, right? So there's a lot of emotions in Polish esports because of Golden Five, and the emotions carried on. Like the same thing in League of Legends. Like the ROCCAT team was the Golden Five. We made it. We were the Golden Five, and unfortunately, we didn't stand the test of time. I don't think it's the team's fault. It's the system's fault. Because there was an international league and you have to live in Germany. If the approach was an open circuit like in Counter-Strike, I still think that a Golden Five in League of Legends would still be present, A team that, goes from LAN to LAN, goes on a boot like the Moscow 5 era, yes, right?
Exactly.
They wouldn't play with each other that much. They wouldn't even like each other that much. But 2 weeks before the IM, they shut up, they go to the boot camp to Kiev, and they man up. And 2 weeks later, they're a new team. with new ideas. This tournament they're playing Shyvana. This tournament they're playing, Mordekaiser mid and Urgot 1 versus 2 bot. Every tournament they'd pull out, another ace, right? And this is why the ROCCAT team, even though we were so close to getting to Worlds, didn't stand the test of time because, living in Germany, there wasn't the flow. And when you have such high emotional situations, it's good to live, not with each other. So the gaming house concept comes from League of Legends, not from Counter-Strike. And Counter-Strike has the boot camp concept, right?
Yes.
And then you have a break from each other. The tournament ends, you go home for a week, and you have a mental break. And that's why that would work there. But that's why it's harder in Poland, and why there's like memes about Kozioł. Kozioł is basically like a small knife. So Kozioł basically means that whenever somebody kicks somebody from the team, it's like they would be putting a Kozioł between their ribs, right? So like that's basically what the memes come from, because it's hard to hold out with each other in a team for a long time.
So when you came to the team that obviously everyone's going to know now, this ROCCAT team, right, there's a little bit of a backstory to this that I have to set up, because people won't realise now, because they know Jankos and VandeR, and plus everyone knows that the team that you beat in the promotion tournament, NIP, basically never were able to qualify for LCS and had a lot of problems himself, even though I will say, everyone used to tell me, like, you're overhyping them. It's like, mate, like, 4 of those players were some of the greatest players Europe's ever produced.
Everybody was hyping them.
They just never made it, it was one of those bizarre ones where they just couldn't. So, but the problem is, the first time around was really, this was like some movie level shit, because if people don't know, the core of that team when it was Lemon Dogs had been number 1 in the regular split of the previous split. The only reason they were playing in promotion is because of this stupid story where Bjergsen went to TSM, and then in exchange the Nip Org were like, right, well, you have to get us a mid laner. So then he went and told Nuke Dog, like, why don't you guys just come over from Lemon Dogs, which was like a failing org anyway, come over to Nip. Yeah, you have to play a promotion tournament, who cares? Like, look how good you are, look how many good players you have. And then also there's an extra detail, which is they were the team that had like the pick as to who they played as well. Back then in promotion, you used to pick which of the 3 teams you wanted to face. And there's 2 details to this that are crazy. One is, people won't know this, but your team had already lost the DreamHack final to then the new SK lineup, which at the time actually went on to be good, but was supposed to be shit. Everyone was like, there were these players, like Svenskeren was like, had been a nobody at that point in time. He'd basically been in and out of the game. And Rated was coming back after he'd basically been kicked. Like, some of the players, Freddy122 was a nobody. Like, these people weren't like top players. So at the time, if you lost to them, I can tell you, I knew the Nip players like Mithy, Nuke Duck and that back then. They even told me, it's not even that they thought yours was the worst of the 3 teams. I think most people thought Super Hot Crew or whatever was the worst one. But they literally, I was told, right, that they not only thought, well, we can beat all 3 of these teams, they also thought, we're sort of friends with one of these other squads, so let's just let Super Hot Crew play them. And this was like a BM, this is how BM, you have to remember, Nuke Duck and Mithy were very BM players. Like, they were so big.
Freeze was
yeah, there we go.
BM.
So they just thought, you guys are so shit, we're going to roll these guys. Because remember, like I said, this was like almost an all-star team, how good some of these players were. So the idea you guys then 3-0, this is an amazing story. What was it like on your end of it? Because this sounds like a movie storyline. It's like the ultimate underdog.
And you know what? It'd be a good movie from our perspective, because there was so much chance and shit going on behind the scene. Let me give you an example. So because there was an extended promotion tournament, if I remember correctly. So we were playing like qualifiers from online at a boot camp in Tychy. That was where the Polish ESL office was based. Right now it's Katowice, but Tychy is like an hour from Katowice, right? So basically, there was like some shady shit going on that we were playing from that studio, because that was basically a studio where you would have like a small TV studio where you'd have normal esports events, right? Like Counter-Strike and stuff. So we were in an org back then that was called, oh my God, how can I forget this? Okay, it was a Polish org. No. It was an organization, actually. It was a Polish organization on G, like game. Yeah. Okay, never mind. I don't remember.
There's no way I could produce it. But I think it's here. Isn't it called like Grujovi?
No, that's not it.
I can't fucking say that word anyway, mate. Whatever.
I wasn't officially in that team. I wasn't officially in that team. No, it was an organization, right? And there was a manager in Poland, Aiden, who basically was part of that organization. It was supposed to be a new big organization. They had like a Counter-Strike team and stuff like that, right? So like the moment that the team was playing qualifiers to the promotion tournament, these were the things that were happening. We were quitting from that organization, and the organization was giving us problems because we had contracts. because we were in talks with Astana Dragons. There was this organization that was supposed to come up. I don't know if you know this. And the only reason why it was ROCCAT and not Astana Dragons is because Astana Dragons was backed by the city. And they're like, why do you guys have contracts with some shady Polish organization? We can't.
Yeah, it was supposed to be for CIS players. Yeah, exactly.
So we're not only playing, we're discussing like legal stuff. We had no idea what was going on, right? Jankos wasn't even at the boot camp because he was finishing studies. He was like at a school, gastronomia. So that's basically like cooking. So we were laughing that we're like playing a match and he's, he's
making a casserole or something. Yeah,
he's putting potatoes into like, he's boiling potatoes or something.
Sure.
And so, this is what was going on behind the scene. I have no idea how we actually barely made it into the promotion tournament. Like, I think there was like a tiebreaker situation because we lost against SHC. I remember against Moops. We lost against them and it was hectic. And then the moment we made it into the promotion tournament, like things all of a sudden died down because we quit the org. We didn't get Astana Dragons, but we were just, let's just play as KMT. If we make it, we'll look for an organization then. That was the approach. And it just gave such calmness. It's like, we don't have a team. We can finally focus on playing. It was really a really hectic situation. There's a lot of people that actually helped out. Like the boot camp was paid for basically just for passion. Because the players didn't play for boot camp, some other dude just paid for a boot camp just because he likes us. It was crazy. Like this is a situation we were in, right? So NIP, yeah, they were really up and over. Like during the match day, before the match started, this is funny. I actually was not with the team again because those were my final exam days, and for the next 2 weeks, right? When LCS started, I still had the exams, as I said before, right? So I was not with the team. I was with them on TeamSpeak. The same day, I think there was some Battle of Atlantic kind of thing. And we were swimming against TSM. So TSM was, and they won 2-1. But the match that we won, Overpow is just picking Kale. Just picking Kale. Like, who the fuck is playing Kale? Why are we playing Kale?
It's not even that pick, exactly, yeah.
Like, trust me. He took Kale. We won against TSM. Like, it was a stomp. And then the same day, we're like, let's pick Kale during the match. Because, people watch the match and they're like, the Kale was genius.
Yes.
They came up with this like for weeks. No, it was the same day. Overpow was just picking Kale because I played her on Soliko and she's okay. And it totally threw NIP off guard. But before the match even started, I remember, because I wasn't at the studio, but the guys told me, this was like, I think right before the TSM scrim, because I heard them on TeamSpeak. So it had to be during the scrim, right? They came and they said, yeah, we went next to Freeze in the corridor, and Freeze is like this. He's like,
I heard he BM'd them or something, right?
What?
I heard he BM'd them or something, right?
He went like this, like, Polacks. Like, there's three of us and one dude, just say hi or something, or don't say anything, but this is what he said. And everybody thought that they would win, and you can watch the analyst desk. I think Wicked was on the analyst desk back then. And everybody on the analyst desk said it's 3-0 NIP. It's impossible. And then the worst thing is that I felt that our team had pretty good macro. We really remember I said we had like a hectic time, and then 2 weeks we finally focused on the game.
Sure.
During those 2 weeks we did a lot of stuff, and the main thing we did was laning assignment. Back then it seems like it was something huge, but nowadays everybody knows what laning assignments are. Back then, actually, not a lot of people did laning assignments. You would just leave base and you'd be like, I'm here. Somebody would go to a lane there and all of a sudden, why am I on this lane? Let's swap. That's how laning assignments would not be planned. And actually, a system that I came up with is like, we're leaving base. I'm going to choose one of your guys. And I chose Xoxos, I remember, for this. So Zazis, right? Xoxos is Polish. So Zazis, when we're leaving base, you're the one that's responsible for laning assignments. And yeah, for 1 week, it'd be shit because he'd be telling Overpow, go mid. For example, in the mid game, Overpow would go mid, and he'd like, I can't lane here. And we wasted time. But after a week, Zazis got so good at it that he was able to find out, an approach for him. I ask this guy this, I ask this guy this, and then I make a decision. And I really think that whole series we won because of better laning assignments. Each game, when I was watching, I'm like, oh yeah, I see what my guys are thinking here. Like, even though I didn't have the TeamSpeak, I wasn't on TeamSpeak there. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what Zazis is saying now, and I know what Sullivan is saying now. And look at their laning assignment. I'm happy with the laning assignment, and they do it. And I really think that was, I think, actually a 1-3-1 meta back then. And when I was watching those games, I'm like, yeah, NIP is pretty good, but their macro sucks.
Yeah. That was one of the big flaws they did have as a team, I remember. What about this then? So when you actually got into LCS, another thing is, it wasn't even just like this was the one-off fluke and then nothing happened. Like, actually in the first split, at one point in time, your team was like #1 in the rankings. Listen, yeah, obviously by the end of the split in the playoffs, the better teams got the better of you and the more established players won, etc. But that in itself was a shock. Right? You have to remember, this is season 4, so we've already had 2 LCS splits, and people are used to, like, at that point in time, you think, right, well, I must know the new talent by now. Like, you know, the people like Lemon Dogs came in and the guys in NIP, but you don't think you're going to get a whole team of 5 people come in and be top in the league. So obviously it wasn't a fluke. And one of the other things is, actually at the time, it was Overpow who was still getting all the props, because now he was playing like a champion Ocean. He was playing different things every week. And so people thought at the time, fully enough, they didn't actually, listen, Jankos started to get some attention and the others, but it was actually Overpow everyone was going on about every week. So what was Overpow like as a player? What was it like during this period of time when you were riding high?
Overpow was just a genius because he played out of Dota. This was the Dota guy. Like when we would play with him in a team, he'd come up with ideas that nobody thought of, and we're like, why do you think about this? Like, everybody's playing this. For example, the Kale, the Mordekaiser mid. I think he had like a gazillion ideas, and he'd say, but I don't care what others are saying. I look at the numbers. He just, he just opened the patch notes or something, right? And it seems like, yeah, he's just doing analysis, but he would see stuff that other people wouldn't see. Like, I would see that, yeah, okay, so they're buffing this, so we're probably going to be playing this. But he would like see a change that nobody thought of, and he'd say, yeah, they're buffing the jungle item. Why don't I pick this jungle item mid? And everybody was like, whoa, they just buff jungle. What does that have to do with mid? And he'd buy the jungle item from mid, and he'd be farming race, right? So he was really innovative, because I really think Dota helped him in this. Dota changed his way of thinking, right? And yeah, Overpow was really good in the spring. I think Overpow was probably the best player in spring. And he not only was a creative guy, he was quite good mechanically, though he did have a skill ceiling, especially in the spring split. You can see the skill ceiling where he would just get always out-farmed by Froggen and Xpeke back then, right? And he wouldn't be able to lane against those guys, right? But so he would always have to be creative. Like when he would play against Froggen, I remember I told this Froggen at like an after party or something, after, I don't know, playoffs or something. I told Froggen, I remember I was talking with Froggen, and Froggen's like, why are you guys picking like Fizz against us? If I remember correctly, it was Fizz. And I told Froggen, look, because he's not going to win against you playing, Ziggs against Oriana. You're going to win. So that's why we're going to take Fizz, because we have to play something different against you. And Froggen's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Right? But, we had to take the risk against players like this because we knew where the skill ceiling was. But in spring, Overpow not only was good in the game, not only was he creative, he was the one that was pushing others around, right? He was the one who was, when I wasn't in the gaming house at the beginning, he was my right-hand man in motivating people. There was no shit. Like, the guys who played Diablo 3, right? They would play Diablo 3.
Sure.
And Jankos and VandeR and Silver, they played a lot of Diablo 3. And I remember Overpow was one of the guys that was just flaming them, saying, you're fucking playing Diablo 3, you idiots. Because he could, what if he didn't say anything? You know what I mean? He could just sit back, watch a movie, right? But because he was saying this, he kind of forced people to try hard. Overpow was a great guy to focus on the game, right? Like, that's why he might have been a little bit toxic, because everybody's like, why are you try harding all the time? Why are you mean to other guys? But you know what? That was needed. It pushed everybody to be more professional, because as you saw before, this team was not an accident. Even though NIP didn't know us, Jankos was the newest player, but the rest, these guys were playing in Poland forever, right? Sure. ZaZas was also like kind of new. But as I told you before, Overpow, Silver, and VandeR, like I played with VandeR in my second team. If I remember, I've known VandeR for 10 years, right? So, and Silver also. These guys have been playing forever. It's not like they were new guys. But what's it called? So the problems that appeared when they normally played also appeared. The laid back approach, the problems out of game, and Overpow would be one of the guys that would focus on these problems, and he just stomped them down, right? So once I got to the gaming house, it was much easier with stuff out of the game, and we started off strong. But this is because I think that it's natural that teams that make it from relegations or from the promotion tournament, they should naturally be better, because they had to be at tip-top form during relegations, while other teams were taking a break, right? So I wasn't shocked at all that we were doing really good at the beginning of the split. But once I joined the team during the 4th week, we were still like 2nd or 3rd. But I knew we would fall down like we were shit because people were starting to get laid back. People were getting tired. People were starting to get burnt out. And I knew that we would have a dip in form. And that dip in form did happen in the middle of the season. But I honestly think that at the end of the season, again, we were a really good team. We finally ended up 3rd. And the reason is that we faced SK. This SK lineup with Justice Mid and Svenskeren and Freddy, we couldn't win against them stylistically. If you look at those matches, we would win against, like, in theory, better teams. Like we could win against Moscow 5 Gambit. We could win against Alliance or CLGU. Yes. We couldn't win against SK. We could win against Fnatic. We couldn't win against SK because our players matched up so bad against their players. Justice was the only guy who was creative apart from Overpow. So when Overpow tries to pick out something creative, Justice has the response. Justice was a smart, creative guy in that sense, right? He might not have the skill ceiling as Froggen and stuff like that, but he had, or Alexish, but he had the creativeness. He could counter Overpow that way. And the worst thing was that Freddy was the best type of player you could have against Xaxus. Xaxus was a team player, a very good team player, and Freddy was just a 1v1 like ogre. Like this guy, he would just take, I remember Doran Nidalee top, and he'd just start attacking you from level 1. He wouldn't care whether the jungle will gank and what the jungle's path was. He would play without thinking, and Zaz totally had no idea what to do. He would have no idea what to do. So we had a total mismatch against SK, and I think if we were in the other part of the bracket, we could have had possibly made finals. But, 3rd place is still good, right?
Well, actually, I want to ask about one of the results that you skipped over there, which is you have the notable distinction. I don't know if you know this piece of trivia. You are the only team that ever beat the real Moscow 5 lineup and stopped them coming top 4. Every other tournament ever that was a LAN, they were top 4, except that last ever split, and they broke up right afterwards, obviously, because they lost in the called the round of 6 now, whatever you'd call it, the quarterfinals, basically. So actually, that's a pretty cool distinction itself if you think about where you were the years before when Moscow 5 were the kings, right? So this must have been a big deal. Like one of the weird things, actually, again, about Polish culture, if people don't know, is because you guys were a communist country, except you weren't like literally part of the USSR, you were like one of the satellite countries. People know the politics back then. And even though, this is one of the bizarre things I've found, when I first came into CS and was going to big LAN tournaments, I thought that, for example, when I go to Ukraine, they're going to hate Russians because they're going to think like they fucking enslaved our country. I thought when I go to Poland, they're going to hate them. Now, here's the weird thing, is they would in some ways, like the older generation, obviously, like, get the fuck out of here, like, communists, that we hate you. But then what I noticed was the youth always looked up to the top Russian players. So in CS, obviously, people would be massive fans in that regard of Cooler and Quake or whatever, even if they were Polish CS players. Obviously, in League of Legends, these players all looked up to the Moscow 5 team. These were the heroes, So I'm sure for people like Jankos to beat a Diamond Prox or someone to play against Alex, this must have been a big deal to win this game, right?
Every game against Moscow 5 or Gambit, I don't even remember what they were.
I think
were
they
they
Gambit
Moscow 5? No, they were Gambit. Yeah, they were already Gambit. Every game was what we Polish people like to call honorówka. So a game for honor. If you lose this match, you have no honor and you should kill yourself, right? Like, that was the try hard against Gambit was over the roof, especially with Jankos. Because Jankos, and obviously a lot of people, thought that Diamond Prox was the most intelligent and best jungle ever. So in Jankos, that's a clutch player. That when he plays against somebody who he thinks is better, he performs better. There's not a lot of players that are like that. Jankos is one of those players, He comes and he takes the test, even though he knows that he should fail the test, And we always had this is why against SK we had a very bad matchup stylistically. Against Gambit, we actually had one of the best stylistic matchups. Every one of our players, we waited to play these guys. And do you know why? Because there was so much history between Polish teams and Moscow 5. See, I remember you once had a movie, a video about context and matches. This is an old. Yes. You probably talk about this a lot, but there was one video that I remember. I used to watch more of you, Thorin, right? Like nowadays I don't have time, but I used to watch a lot of you. And I remember you had a video once where you said that, do you know why Counter-Strike is better than League of Legends? Because in League of Legends, right, you get the SKT against, G2, but you don't see SKT against the third team from Europe. right? Because there's not enough national turns. So there's no history there, so you can't build upon it. And Counter-Strike, every month you have, Liquid against Astralis, against SK or MIBR, right? The Brazilians. So there's so much context. It was the same thing here because, Moscow 5, when they first appeared, everybody as Team Empire, everybody's, wow, who are these guys? And we, the Polish guys, we were so shocked. If you go back into Go for LOLs, when I was playing in teams like the HCL Gaming, or when we were playing IM qualifiers in the lineups, with VandeR, Sulliver, and stuff like that. Jankos was the new guy, right? But with Overpow and all those guys, we would meet the Russian team weeks on weeks, like 5 weeks in a row. And we knew this lineup so good from years back. We knew the lineups where GhostSuPepper. I remember the week where GhostSuPepper joined the lineup. Before there was this support guy called Zulin. And I remember when Diamond Prox joined, and he was like a 2-trick guy. He only played Trundle and Udyr. I'm like, who is this Diamond Prox guy? The guy before was better. That's what we were thinking. We knew the whole lineup from way back. So that's why these matches were so hype, because we remembered how years before we'd lose against this team, and now everybody says they're so good. That's why they were unlucky that they fought us in the bracket. I really think that we had a bad matchup against SK. They had a bad matchup against us. And one small thing, I think they were a stubborn team in picks and bans.
Sure.
Go back to season 2 and losing against TPA with Nidalee on the third map, right? Where everybody's like, if you ban the Nidalee, Moscow 5 wins 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. You remember this. They had the same thing during our 2-1 or 2-0, I don't even remember, series, it was a 2-0 series. In both games, we got Jinx, Thresh, Elise. And the only reason we played this, and against SK, we won the first map with this lineup. But as I told you, SK was smart, and they banned out, I think, even all 3 of them. And the only reason why we played this was because we had really a bad time in the team. And every game, Jankos would come to me and he'd because Jankos was a genius in the early game, right? I didn't have to do anything. He'd just go and he'd do his own thing, right? But mid-game, Jankos wouldn't know what to do. And I remember we had this one night where we had a long discussion, and I'm like, Jankos, if you don't know what to do, then we have to dumb down the game. Why don't you take Elise and 10 minutes on the timer, just go bot every game, go bot. And we started doing that, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, so if we do that, we need a bot lane that has really good siege. So Thresh, Jinx, and Elise, it's not a gank. You go, you throw your cocoons, your traps, and your shit, and you're going to take the tower, you're going to kill somebody. And Jankos started doing this every game during that playoff time. And Moscow 5, they were stubborn. If they banned that, we would be done. But they didn't, and here we are.
Let's talk a bit about Jankos then. Obviously, we've briefly touched on him before. Now, obviously, he is the most enduring player of this team because, and that just shows what a fabulous career he's had, that he's basically never been bad. I always say he's one of the only players I've ever seen. And by the way, the idea he played jungle and was never bad, that is impossible. I've seen League of Legends. I don't know anyone from basically any region, pretty much, who could say that if they were a jungler. So how would you explain this guy? Because as you say, in the early days, it wasn't a meme. When he had that nickname, the First Blood King, it's like it was just magnetic. He just would find his way to get the kill. Even if you could tell, sometimes it clearly wasn't a gank that was set up. He wasn't common that this was coming. He would just go there and a kill would happen. Who is this guy to you? Who was he in the early days?
That was hell for me as a coach, because I'm like, at the beginning, I would try to plan some stuff for him. I'm like, okay, so you're a jungler. Please tell me your route. Tell me why you're doing this route. And communicate with this with your team. And after some time, we found out that didn't work, because he would play Lee Sin. He'd go do a lane gank where the opponents have flash up, and I'm like, they have flash up. Why are you there and not at mid where this guy doesn't have flash? It's pointless. And he'd go by and he'd do a double kill, and I'm like, what is going on? So this guy back then was a 100% natural, right? So he wasn't that good at the start of the split, because remember, he wasn't playing a lot because he had the university stuff. So with the potatoes, right? Sure. So he was doing his potato stuff, and he was only playing scrims. He was not playing solo queue basically back then. So against NIP, he actually was not doing that well. We extremely out macroed them back then. Then the start of the season happens, and Jankos comes to the gaming house. He's finally finished his school, and that's the first time in life that Jankos fully started playing League of Legends as a job. And it's just so perfect that this guy's career was able to go the way it went. Because, there's a lot of players who got unlucky. That, they had the most important qualification where they couldn't play a lot and they didn't make the qualifiers and they quit their career, right? Sure. And you never know, like, what if these guys could focus 100% on the game? How good would they be? And Jankos had an ideal career situation because he was still young. He still was a new player. He could still learn a lot under people like Overpow, for example, who had a great mind for the game, or under people like VandeR and Sullivan, who were extremely experienced with League of Legends, right? Because this was the Dota guy. And then you had two guys from League of Legends who were there from the very beginning. And now you have Jankos, a new guy who's mechanically talented. Now he can 100% focus on the game. Of course, he did play Diablo 3 also, as I said before. But, he would play League of Legends all the time. And he actually had a coach. When back then, apart from me, there was only Aranea and Veggie, Jensen, who wasn't the coach. He was just playing solo queue, basically. And maybe he did some statistics. Like, when I heard back then, there were people saying that SK had a coach. I'm like, that's not true. We can say he's a coach, but it's not true physically, right? It's not true, right? He's not on scrims with the guys and talking about the macro stuff, right? So I really think Jankos had all of the elements at the same time in the right moment. And he's also a really talented guy because, as I said, back then he was just a natural, and actually he wasn't that smart about the game. The example I gave you with the Elise was a real example. He didn't know what to do. He's like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. He was running around just farming while the opponents were diving. He didn't know what to do, so I had to dumb down the game. Nowadays, this guy has transitioned from a natural to a genius. This guy, every play that Jankos does now is thought out. He knows exactly where to be. And he still has some of the feel left, but Jankos is now like people still. It's not the First Blood King anymore, right? We remember him that way because that's how he was. But this is the best thing. Not only was he back then the mechanical beast, the talented young guy, not a lot of pro players can transition into the experienced role.
Sure. And
this guy did it. He's so mature. How many pro players do you know, like Jankos? Compare this to the NA double lift, Lena stuff. You have a player who will not focus on a relationship, who will not fuck around in scrims, who streams for popularity, but only because that's needed from an organization standpoint and for his own popularity. So that's like the work he puts in for his future. But the moment things go sour, he stops streaming. He cuts it and he focuses on the game.
Sounds like the perfect pro, right?
This is the perfect pro. And actually, in Polish podcasts and stuff, I've been saying this for some time because we have he's been winning player of the year in Poland for 2 years running because he's the perfect pro. He's a great player. He has no controversy. He focuses on the game, and he has a social media presence, and he's funny. He's everything. Jankos is currently the best Polish esport representative, in my opinion.
No, that's fair. Yeah. Right. So obviously, I didn't.
He's not like.
That helps. That definitely helps, mate. He's got full head of hair. He's got everything going for him. Bloody bastard.
Exactly. Boy, he's the Polish wonder boy.
There you go. So, okay, one thing is, as we were talking here, the first split, we say he come third. Unfortunately, in the second split with ROCCAT, you had what is literally the worst placing you can have, which is to come fourth. Because back then, as we're going to have now, actually, in LCS, I believe, third place is the last world spot. And unfortunately, the third place decided was against SK. The same team just said before was the worst matchup. So, right, before we get into that, there's two parts to this question. One is you told a very interesting story on the episode of Narrative Wake I did with Kelsey, where you touched briefly on the fact that I believe it was part of watching the Samsung VODs and stuff and figuring some things out about Vision that turned this split around. It started really badly, you said. I think you started 1-6 or some really bad. Yeah. And then you turned it around and says, I want to know about that. And then the other part is, obviously, it must be crushing when you're within reach of potentially making it to Worlds to lose this match. Like I say, it's always basically the worst one that you can lose in because you just don't even get to go to Worlds. So what was this split like in that regard?
Okay, I'm going to start off with the start of the split. In the spring split, I think I was a pretty good coach, right? It was okay. During the second split, it's hard not to be, I don't want to, boast, but I have to. When I look back at it, the only reason that team actually made it to 4th place was me. It's funny, but I wasn't there for the first 3 weeks because, again, university stuff. I had my exams, right? Because, I finished my exams. I had some time off, so that was during the spring split. Then I had exams again, and during like the 4th week, I wasn't with the team at all. Like on TeamSpeak, I'd be maybe only 3 days out of like 7 days, if I remember correctly. And I remember that I finished my exams, and like 2 days before I was going to fly to Cologne, I finally took like a semester of break. I went to my university and I said that I want a break of a semester, right? Because you're allowed to take breaks, right? So my parents actually don't know this. They think I finished every semester as fast as possible. It's not true. I actually took a semester off. So I took a break actually because I saw things were going bad, and for 3 days I was sitting down and I was looking all the time at what Samsung Blue was doing. It took me 3 days, right? Like basically. I was pausing, this is basically how I do analysis, but I was basically pausing the VOD every 3 seconds, looking, at the minimap. Like, I wouldn't even look at the game. Like, who cares what the game is? I was looking at the minimap. Like, okay, this guy's placed the ward at 50 seconds. I write that down. Then this guy, 3 seconds later, this guy went here. He'd placed the ward. Every ward was written down with a timer. Every map movement was written down with a timer. Now, once you watch 5 or 6 matches with this amount of detail, you start to, analyze and see small things that are repeatable. So I kind of did a reverse engineering approach. And back then that worked. Nowadays, this would not work because nowadays you don't just copy the best. You have to find out what the best is for your team. League of Legends has gotten to such a high level that you can't just copy. You have to find out what's the best for your team. So coaching now is much more harder than back then. But back then, I basically did a complete reverse engineer. I wrote down on a piece of paper, okay, top laner needs to do this, jungle needs to do this. Everybody had their tasks. I called them quests based like on RPG. You do a quest, you get experience.
Makes it sound
right?
cooler.
And it's easier for the players to remember. Like, I have a lot of these buzzwords. Heroes 3 of Might and Magic was a buzzword because there was a week where we would overcommit. We'd win a team fight. We'd try to do too much on the map. The opponent would, they'd, respawn. They'd either kill us or they respawn. They'd do Baron when we had to go back to base. So we were too greedy. And I told the players, if this ever happens in the game and you see that you're being too greedy, say Heroes 3 of Might and Magic. And it's just something that like, why the fuck is somebody saying Heroes 3 of Might and Magic during a League of Legends game, at the LCS stage? And that's a trigger that automatically tells you, oh, wait, what am I doing? I was supposed to go back to base. So for example, the quests and stuff like that, there was a lot of like in-house terminology that we had. And I basically came to the gaming house for 2 days. I'd sit with, I remember with VandeR, it took a whole day on swaps. We were just discussing swaps and like watching VODs for 3 hours. It's very hard for a player to for 3 hours to watch with a coach. Props to VandeR, it's hard, right? Especially back then when you hear what's going on in the States or in other organizations, right? So it took like 1 day with VandeR. I remember 1 day with Xaxis. Xaxis was my kind of right-hand man in the summer because back then it was Overpow, right? But Xaxis became my right-hand man because he was like the kind of guy that's the easiest to work with as a coach. I'd tell him one thing and he'd just remember it and he'd do it. You know what I mean? He was very easy to inject my ideas into macro ideas, right? So Xaxis became my right-hand man. So I shouted down to Xaxis, and that's it. We from day to day, from 1 week, we became a top team macro-wise. It took 1 week only. It was incredible. Like I also got lucky, but it was when I look back at it, it's very important for me to think about it this way: that we were so shit macro when I wasn't in the gaming house, and that's like the first time I thought, like, man. Maybe I should go into this League of Legends stuff, right? So that was really lacking for the team. The macro was shit. The moment we improved our macro, we like went from 1-7 and we ended up like 5th place. We honestly like only lost like 2 more matches, I think. So let's now go what happens in the playoffs, right? So in the playoffs, we got SHC. I think in the first round we won 3-1, and then we got Fnatic, and in between the seasons, I don't know if Overpow knows this. I think he knows this. There was a discussion. Maybe we should take Selfie for mid.
Sure. At the time he was like the young star, right?
Yeah, because he was a young star. We'd play against him on scrims. He'd have a crazy Yasuo, an extremely split push Yasuo back then. And some of the guys were thinking, You see, with Overpow in the spring, because he was, the Hyung, the older Korean brother, the guy who's not only a League of Legends professional like you guys, but he's also the, Mystique Dota Pro guy. He was in Dota. So Overpow had this aura around him where he's the try-hard guy, right? As I told you before.
Sure.
He's the intelligent guy. He's the creative guy. And that worked in spring. But for some reason, and especially during the last weeks of spring, where, as I said, it turns out that we just need simple fix. Just Jankos just go bot 10-minute. I think it kind of got demystified. And all of a sudden, Overpow stopped being this, great father figure. He started kind of becoming the toxic guy. That's what was left over from his persona. And we didn't change Overpow because we're like, you know what? We made third place. Let's not be mean guys.
Sure.
We made third place. Why are we, now we should have third or better. If this season we don't become better, then we can maybe change something. So we left Overpow, and this was a really hard season for Overpow. And unfortunately, everything was stripped down. His skill level was not there. He was losing mid a lot. His toxicity was left, unfortunately. There was a time where during the scrims, whenever Overpow would say something, the rest of the team would say Zankni Morda, so shut up. Do you imagine this work environment? You're a mid laner saying mid-miss and somebody tells you, shut up. That was the worst week. That was the worst week in atmosphere-wise. And at the end of the season, I actually props to Fly for this, our manager back then. He actually bridged. This was so bad for Overpow because I was actually against Overpow also. It was because I saw the arguments of the other guys. I'm like, he's losing lane and he's mad at you.
Yes.
For a macro thing that I told you to do, and it's my fault. It's not your fault. And he's mad at you. It was basically Overpow against the rest. And I guess Fly somehow bridged us. But why am I talking about this now? We go into the Fnatic series. We lose 3-2. And it's 2-2, right? Even before, I think we were losing 2-1. So we lost. It was we won, then we lost, and then we lost again. And after that lost map, on stage, Overpow is to me, we can't win. We can never win against them. I got so pissed. I shouted at him. I'm like, what are you talking about? Look at the other guys, We're here to win, I got so pissed at him. And we won the fourth map, and I see Overpow. He's like, it's better, right? The motivation's there. He's like, oh my gosh, we can actually do this, right? So I was not only fighting against Fnatic, I was fighting against one of my own dudes, right? And the fifth map comes, and I'm thinking, do we ban Oriana? And because I saw that Overpow had the fire in his eyes, I'm like, let's not ban Oriana, and you take Fizz. Even though I knew that the skill gap was so big that P.E.K.K.A is going to destroy him, I believed in Overpow, and that was my mistake. I should have had banned the Oriana, and I should have had forced him into a champion that he didn't want. Because he wanted to play Fizz. Let's play Fizz. It's an assassin, right?
You wouldn't believe how many stories that coaches normally can't say publicly that go like that, which is in the big clutch game, it's always the game 5, it's always the one you have to win. What you're saying is what they all regret, which is, it's because, I know why, there's two sides to it, mate. On the one hand, you want to believe in the player. You want to believe if I give him what he wants, he's going to do it. And then the other thing is, you also don't want to later on think, well, we lost anyway, and I didn't give him the pick. Now we're all going to wonder what if, But the problem is, there's a lot of stories that are like that, where it's like, what, if I actually looked at the meta, I should have just said play this, and we would, it's like we could have autopiloted a win, if anything, you know what I mean? Yeah. I understand, though, it's a coaching dilemma, right?
Yeah, it is, and I made the decision, and it was a wrong decision. I think maybe if we banned the Oriana, we could have had one. Obviously, something else would be open, right? But sure. I don't exactly remember what would have been open. I remember the Oriana versus Fizz, right? That's what's left in my mind. And next day we played against SK. I knew it'd be bad. It was always bad. And the same thing, people forget. Because it's a match a week, but you play, let's see, 5 games scrims every day. Times 5, that's 25 maps. You play against other teams in the LEC to play 2 maps on the official stage. So it's not only that I knew that we lost against SK during the matches, I knew on scrims that we always lost against them. It was an impossible opponent for us, SK, So we nearly missed. And actually back then, because in your question you had that, maybe I was pissed or something. Actually, no. I was pissed at our team, and I was pissed at the management. I actually got drunk, and I kind of got myself like half kicked from ROCCAT because I went to the owner of ROCCAT and I said that if we had this and this in the gaming house, maybe we could have won that map. And the funny thing is that the owner didn't even know who I was.
Right,
because
just some drunk Polish guy come up to him abusing him.
Coaches, remember, we couldn't go on stage back then. I didn't have a contract. Look, it's been years. I can talk about stuff. Sure. The players paid me out of their own pocket. And let me give you an example. There was a month where one of the players didn't want to pay me because I shouted at him because I got mad because we were fucking something up. That's a weird situation where you're the coach and your player is paying you, right? So this is funny because props to the guys. No teams had coaches. These guys paid out of their own pocket to have a coach. So that really, that also, validated me, right? And I think it helped the players listen to me because they're thinking, I pay this guy. So not only can I, because, they could force me to not be useless because there are a lot of coaches that are useless that would be making, eggs in the morning and that's it. And they'd be watching Netflix, right? I don't even know if Netflix is back then. But
probably wasn't, but we get the premise. Right? Torrents or whatever, yeah.
And there's a lot of coaches like that. I had no choice because I was by myself in Germany, by myself without my family, and these guys are paying me. So if I'm useless, I have to go back to Poland for my own money. So this is motivating for the guys and for me. It was a very interesting system. The problem appears when one of the players didn't want to pay me. He fortunately did pay me when we won a match. So that week we won the match and he paid me, right? But it was funny because I remember how specific day of the month I'd go to guys like, okay, guys, let's go to the gas station for my money, and they'd go to the ATM. They'd be taking out the money and giving it to me. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. So, we lost against SK. I was actually more pissed at out of game stuff than in game stuff. And I remember I got mad. I went drunk to the management. And the funny thing is that when I quit the team, and then there was the lineup with Nuke Duck on mid, they actually wanted me back. And the management said that we don't want this guy because he told our owner to go fuck himself.
Right. That was going to be what I was going to ask next, essentially, is like, how did he end up not in this team? Because that's the thing. The next team, I mean, people might know this because actually it's a famous anecdote I've told many times before, where I made these 2 videos in the off season. So, like, what people didn't know at the time, because I had to keep it secret, was I've told this story now, obviously, that Fnatic asked me to be their coach. And so I knew that they weren't getting, like, fucking SuperAZE and the established names back. I knew they were getting these people who, by the way, were nobodies. Nobody ever heard of these guys, or the ones that we had heard of, like Rainover. I was watching that guy be garbage in OGN, so
game over, remember?
Yeah. So I basically told these people, like, thanks, but no thanks. And then I went and made a video where I said, like, they lost the off-season, which now obviously looks hilarious because of what they went on and did the next year. But on the other side, I also knew Fly from ROCCAT. I knew what they were trying to do over there. And I already thought Jankos and VandeR were brilliant players. And I heard, like, actually, we're putting together this team where we're getting a Nuke Doc from Nape, and we're going to have, like, we're going to bring in Woolite, who at the time was thought to be a talent. Everyone's going to meme now, but yet she wasn't a joke at the time. And then the idea of
the split, right, in Copenhagen.
Yes.
Yeah.
The idea
under a house a lot of times,
The idea even for Overpow was interesting because they were like, right, well, listen, we get that he's not a good of mid laner, so what we're going to do is we're going to role swap him top, and then he understands teleport usage, which was a big deal back then, so he'll be able to do that. Like, all of it sounded great. So famously, I made a different video where it said that ROCCAT won the offseason, which also obviously ended up becoming quality meme material, where it's like, I completely missed both ways on this one.
See, I don't know about Fnatic, but actually, I agree with you. On the outside, everybody was like, what's going on,
awesome.
Right? But with the ROCCAT one, I can see why it would seem good on paper, and I don't know the exact mistakes. Taking out Zazus was a mistake.
Right.
With Sulliver, yeah, maybe we could have taken Woolite, but remember what I said before about Selfie? Overpow was the one to be changed. Yes. And the second, so that's one mistake. The second glaring mistake is you don't take one guy from, Nuke is Swedish, right?
Norwegian, sorry.
Yeah, same thing. Just kidding.
May as well be compared to Polish, mate.
Same thing, yeah. So you don't take one guy. You take two. You don't take one. And it was a bad environment. You don't take one guy not Polish to a Polish team. You take two minimum. So there were two mistakes, and I knew that those were mistakes. But I was inside the team, so that's that's completely. And actually, here's the thing. Actually, they were able to talk with the owner. And actually, I was supposed to be in ROCCAT again. And here's the funny thing. Here's my mistake. I said, "Go fuck yourselves. I'm gonna beat you with my new team, Reason Gaming." That's exactly what I said. And
that part didn't happen, obviously. Yes,
that was a complete mistake.
Listen, we all made a lot of bold pronouncements that were wrong in this era. So, okay, what about that angle though? Because let's be real. Most people who are in just European League of Legends, they don't know the Polish scene. That's the end of when they heard of you, mate. That was the end of the story of Veggie. They don't know that since then you've been coaching, you've had all these different teams. Do you ever look back? I mean, listen, I don't mean it like in a cheesy movie way, but like, would things have been different if you'd have been able to stick in that team? Should you have done something different? I mean, as I alluded to at the beginning of the interview, I think if people knew you could actually fluently speak English and you had an American back, I think you would have had a lot of coaching offers, mate. I think people thought, like the Polish scene back then was just all Polish players. They thought you're only going to be in Polish teams and there's only one relevant set of Polish players and they're already in our League C, right?
Yeah, but you know what? You live with your parents for years and there's a small part of brainwash. I was brainwashed that you can't go play video games. You have to finish your studies. So
right.
It was, I couldn't make that decision to go all into esports. But I will say this. I was actually accepted to SK, right? Remember this guy, Lukashenko? There was this guy there. He was like a sports psychologist, right? One of the first ones, so it was a big hype name that, SK is taking. So actually, SK knew me quite well, right? And I was supposed to coach the SK team, with Svenskeren, with Forgiven, because he was, or actually, I think it was actually Candy Panda that was making a return, if I remember. But I remember N-rated was
he left after the first split.
I highly rated N-rated, obviously.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah, so I was supposed to coach that team. Actually, I was supposed to go to them to Worlds, right? Because we lost. And I was supposed, we lost against them.
Yes.
But they said, you know what? But come with us to Worlds. We won't pay you. Okay, but we'll pay for your flights and stuff. So to go to Korea. And the only reason I didn't go was because I think it was some not enough time or something. I don't know what happened there. But that was actually the Worlds where they got banned for Svenskeren and the racist stuff or something. Yes. Yeah. And after that, I was supposed to go to SK for the next season. So after Worlds, and they bought, and I was already, everything was set. I had my contract. Finally, I was going to get a contract as an official coach. They bought my flights. I had a flight booked already for like 2 days. In 2 days, I'd be going to Germany to sign the contract and to go to SK office. And, people have these kind of days in their life. That was one of the crucial days in my life. I had the ticket and everything. I sat down and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, do I want to go? And you know what? Like for the whole day I was thinking and I'm just like, why am I running away from a normal job? And that was the day I like mentally checked out of esports. That from that day onward, because before it was the passion, right? It was always passion. Even in the LCS, it was like, I'm going to take a break off of studies because I want to help the guys, right? I want to help the guys. I want to win with these guys, right?
Sure.
But that day, it was like, okay, this is starting to get serious. I'm going to a not Polish team, so I'm not, with my cultural friends, and I'm going to SK to win. It's starting to become a career. And, I'm mentally too scared of that. I'm too scared of esports as a career. And that's the day I mentally checked out of esports. I actually told them, no, sorry, SK, for the ticket you wasted on me and the money. And I checked out, and for half a year or even a year, I did nothing with League of Legends. I actually started working out and shit like that. I went to the life. Honestly, I got like a 6-pack back then,
Fair enough.
So I started working on myself. I found a job. And throughout that year that I had nothing to do with esports, you know what the worst thing is? I actually was okay with it. It wasn't like I was like, oh man, I wish I could go back to esports. So back then, no, I wasn't sad that I didn't make it to Worlds with ROCCAT because I had SK anyways, right, as an offer.
Sure.
And two, actually, I did have offers from SK, which was a nice line. I think they actually were pretty high at the start of the season back then, but I think then they fell off or something. Something went wrong with that SK lineup, if I remember correctly. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter back then, but nowadays, I think this way. I should have given myself at least a year. What does a year change? Exactly. And, I give myself some goals, like make it to Worlds. If I don't make it to Worlds, I quit automatically. And then, the next season, get out of groups at Worlds. If I don't make it, then quit. I'd give myself like tiers. I don't know why I didn't do that. Like, it was just a year. Couldn't I wait a year to work? And that's the story about, European kind of level coaching.
Right, what about this then? So one thing I did want to ask is a team that you've been with for many years since then, playing in the Polish league, was this Illuminar Gaming team, which features a number of names people are going to know. So a couple of them that will be the famous ones is you had Kikis as your jungler. We alluded to this on the Night of Wake episode, but imagine that didn't happen, just in case someone's only watching this interview. So you had Kikis as your jungler, who obviously we've alluded to before. He's been in a million teams. People know him from LEC. He always comes in. He always does like a decent enough job, and then bizarrely he just leaves the next split or gets kicked or replaced or whatever. And then the other player you had was the infamous Woolite, who at this point in time was very firmly a meme and basically has never been able to recover from that since, because like, it's like, listen, he definitely does have a problem just like fucking pressing forwards and going into fights and dying, but we're also all waiting for it. We're all like, it's like, when's it going to happen? And so tell me about these two players. Who are they? Because they're obviously such contrasting personalities, and I'd like to know what it was like to work with them, because you had them in your teams for quite a while.
Okay, so Kikis. Now, Kikis was a band-aid for us. There was this tournament, V4 in Hungary, where it's funny. There were 300k euros to win.
I went there, mate. I'll tell you the story. For CSGO, the reason I know about this tournament is the reason it's called V4 is that's what they call these countries. It's like Czech Republic, Poland. Is it like, what are the other ones?
Hungary.
Slovakia? Yeah, Hungary, maybe. I think those are the four. And the reason why there was all this money, the reason I was there, mate, even though it didn't have all the best teams, I had a couple of them, is because, as you're saying, there was an insane amount of money, not only for the prize purse, but they were paying us to come there, like our top rate in CS. And the reason why is this was a political campaign where to get the youth on the side of like wherever it was in like fucking, I think it was in Hungary at the time, to like get elected. This guy was putting
stuff. Yeah, it was election time.
He was putting all the money from the fucking government into this tournament because he thought like all the Zoomers are going to think I'm sick.
The hotel, it was the best hotel I've ever been in. In terms of the what's it called, the food for breakfast, the best breakfast I ever had. And as you said, I knew all the guys from CS, from the Polish scene back then.
Sure.
So you know, so it was great. You know,
so it was a big tournament though at the time, right?
What? Sorry.
So this is a big tournament for you in this scenario. Chance to win money.
Look, there's more money there than in LEC. You know, and because there were only 4 countries, the teams were like shit. You know, you're playing for more money than in the LEC, and you're playing.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that's the detail as well. The political angle was the teams had to at least have one player from one of these 4 countries. So, for example, in CS, like we had a very weird mix. We had like Virtus Pro, and then I think like Mouse Sports got in because like one player, like fucking Stick or something,
and then there was a
like,
second Polish team.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is, like, I guess you're saying it wasn't even going to be the LEC teams. Like, these were all these teams that were like just from your level. So the chance to win big money is present, right?
Yeah. Look, the moment this tournament was like announced, we're like, what is going on? Life is different, right? So we go to this tournament. We actually don't win, even though we're the favorites. We lost against Esuba with Humanoid. Actually, funny how how history is. So Humanoid was playing in Esuba back then, and we got back from the tournament, we went into the hotel, and we had this guy Tabasco in the jungle, and I remember me and my second coach, I had this guy Volv. He's actually now in the team Heat Esports. They're second in the Polish league actually. So he's like I was kind of his mentor throughout these years, right? So we go back to the hotel, and I'm like, look, we have to change something, and we're either going to change Tabasco, the jungler, maybe we'll change the top laner IceBeasto. But like nobody wanted to do that because you're talking about Woolite and Kikis. IceBeasto was also one of the guys that everybody was saying this guy is fit, LEC level, right? So he didn't make it to LEC obviously yet, but we were thinking like we have to change something. We bombed out of this tournament where we were 100% favorites to win this, and we lost so much money. We still made a lot of money, but we should have had first place, right?
Sure.
So I call up Kikis and I'm like, do you want to play top for our team? Like it's not like we made a decision, right? It's like, well, let's see what's open. Maybe we won't change anything. Let's see what's open. And Kikis says to me, and so we're talking about Kikis now. Kikis says to me, but top isn't your problem. Jungle is. I'm like, yeah, but you're a top laner. He's like, I don't care. I can be a jungler. And he solved their problems. It was magic from the first, not from the first day, but from the first official matches. Kikis in the jungle in this team was magic because the first 2 weeks was hard. He had to change role. It took him 2 weeks. That's actually not long, right? It took him 2 weeks. He was like dying at crabs. He was invading really recklessly. So Kikis, this was the second time I saw Kikis, Actually, the first time I saw him as a coach, and the second time in my life I wasn't with the team, because I was with Kikis and team way back when I was a player.
Sure.
So as a player, this guy, he was just like a kiddo. You know, he was really young. He was a good player, but not really a great teammate. Like this was the guy this is why he had so much teams, and it's not an accident. The moment something would go wrong, he'd change his team. So he wasn't in the Golden Five mentality, definitely. Sure. This guy was in the anti-Golden Five mentality, right? He just dump our team like a week. He's like, yeah, we lost this match. I don't care. I have a better offer. Bye-bye, right? So that's how I remembered Kikis as a player. But once he came to Illuminar, it's completely different. This guy was a 100% team captain. So remember the Overpow situation from spring, where in the game and out of the game, he'd be a team captain? Kikis became the same thing in this team. So in game, he struggled at the beginning, but then he actually was like the in-game leader. He was saying everything, right? Like he went back to the time where he was actually making my job as a coach much easier. He'd be telling the players like Sebex, our mid lane, he was saying, go here and do this now. There was no discussion. There was no like hesitancy in his calls, right? He'd just do it. Out of the game, it'd be the same thing. He'd be like, guys, that I want to go back to LCS. And I can see you, Woolite, you played twice as less games this week than last week. What are you going to do about it? And, the other players who are, they were kind of complacent. Yeah, I'm playing Poland, the best team, life's great, right? And all of a sudden this Kikis guy comes and he's forcing everybody to put in the hours, put in the work. So Kikis was a great help for me back then. And he was a true team captain. And the moment, we did well at European Masters, everybody's like, this is our shot. Let's disband the team and everybody go look for a new team. And, and Kikis went to Vitality. And I have no idea what happened with him since that time. Sure. He came back to Illuminar actually like 3 months ago, and he bombed out, basically. Now he's in France as a top laner again, right? So Kikis, I think it's hard to expect him to become better. Like he's already been at the top. And now he's not at the top. And, he's not old. He's not like 30 like me, right? But he's old as a player, because Kikis is actually one of the guys. He's one of the old guys, right?
From the beginning, yeah.
From the OG guys with the VandeRs, the Sullivers, the Pookie Styles, me, and stuff like that. So he's not the second wave of Jankos. He was the first wave, and it's hard for me to imagine him to become, the best player. I actually think that because we did so well in Illuminar, with him being the team captain, I think then he went to Vitality, and he's like, I'm the captain. He did the same thing in Vitality as an Illuminar. I'm the team captain. And all of a sudden, Vitality looked much better, right? But I think he took it too far. And nowadays, I think, actually, he's not that easy to work with. Because I think for him, it's like, whenever I'm in control, my team does well. And, League of Legends isn't that simple. And I think maybe he's stuck in that mentality a bit. When it comes to Woolite, it's like, this guy is just a really good, skilled player, and he does have the meme around him, playing Woolite. And I'm going to be honest, I think he should be in the main team of Rogue. Well, maybe not now, but I think last year, look, they took him at the end of last split, and they had a small run, right? Sure. They barely didn't make Worlds, right? Actually, no, wait, they were in the Gauntlet, right? And with Woolite, they were playing much better. I don't think Woolite is like, look, is he as good as, I don't know, as Perks? And that's a bad example. Perks is like a GOAT player. He's not like an AD carry player. You know what I mean? So is he like a Reckless? No, Reckless is probably just as good mechanically on lane, and he's just stable, right? Woolite is probably less stable. He's not, a young talent, but I do think he could play in the LEC. It's like, okay. What else do you want to know about Woolite? Because it's hard to me, it's hard for me to explain exactly what you want to know. I just wondered
if he was the meme or not. Sounds like maybe that's overplayed.
I think it is a little bit overplayed. Like, look, maybe he does have a tendency, but there's such a small possibility of that, because he had that one Kog'Maw, back, is why the meme like really caught on. But to be honest, I sometimes prefer a player that has the probability, like 10% he's going to fuck up. But you know what? Because he's playing aggressive, because he sometimes does something weird, there's a 10% chance he fucks up, but there's a 20% chance that you come out ahead. that's a net 10% increase in my head. But that's the way I like thinking.
Sure. Right, since you referenced him, let's actually talk about IceBeasto, because as you say, this is a player where when I would do my shows where people would talk about the National League level players, he was one of the ones who, he wouldn't be first, he wouldn't be like leader or fucking Larson or these people who, they were always obviously going to get their chance in LEC, they're just like clear talents. But he was one of the names that would always be on the fringes, but as you say, it's like that's just been his rep forever now. He just stays at National League level, he's usually in pretty good teams, but it's his teammates that go off to LEC and he just stays in his team for whatever reason. So who is this guy? Like why was he? Why did you think he never got his shot at LEC?
Because he's a true Polak, man. Like this guy back, because as you said now, right? Like Larson and Leader, these guys were mid laners, right? So back then, I think he was probably at least in the top 3 of top laners. Like I'm talking about the Illuminar run where we made it into the finals, right? So just like Kick now, we lost 0-3 and Kick now lost 0-3. So funny how we're at the same place, a few years later, right? We didn't make any improvement. But IceBeasto back then, 1 versus 1, I don't remember a game where he wouldn't have at least an advantage. This guy played to win on lane, and he would really pull other teammates towards him. So he would enable himself. This is why with Tabasco, it didn't work because Tabasco wasn't strong enough to say no. So Tabasco became like a dog for him, and it was like too skewed to top lane. Like we would only play him on top lane, bot lane, but the meta wasn't like made for that, right? So that was bad. But when Kikis came, Kikis was able to take IceBeasto. No, I'm not coming top now. We're doing a dive bot because Kikis was a strong voice, right? So that's why it worked with Kikis. But IceBeasto definitely is a player that won 1 versus 1, and he knew when to ask for people to come to him so he can dominate the opponent. So back then, I think IceBeasto should have gotten a chance. But why is he a Polak through and through? Because he likes our scene. He likes talking with the girls in our scene. He likes the dudes. He likes the parties. And let me give you an example. After this whole Illuminar thing where, we're talking about like, yeah, this guy is a talent. He actually took like a year or half a year break. What was he doing? He was actually riding around on a scooter in his city. Like, you ask him, yeah, what are you doing in life? He's like, just riding on my scooter. I'm like, what about League of Legends? What then? I got my scooter, electric scooter, like it's like a Xiaomi thing or something. I'm like, yeah, great. Good luck. Now he came back and he's in the top team in Poland. But, as I said, with Jankos, the prodigy who became, the experienced guy, same thing with IceBeasto now. Back then, he was a prodigy. He was winning versus 1. He was a really annoying top laner to deal with. And the best thing was he could dominate you with a Victor, for example, right? He would just win versus 1 back then in the meta. But he could do that with Ornn. That was great for a coach because you could give him like, somebody will say, yeah, Ornn is a weak side champion. This guy could kill opponents with Ornn, like no problem, with Sion, So he could play aggressively with tanks also. That was really interesting, right? So it was really nice as a coach to have a player like that. And so back then he was a prodigy, and nowadays, actually, he is the kind of experienced top laner. But see, the difference is, if you're not the prodigy, when you're in the prodigy part of your career and you're not in the LCS or in the LEC nowadays, it goes by. As you said, you're on the fringes. You have to make it into the LEC when you're still on the prodigy level. Because then, once you go to the veteran kind of era, okay, wait, veteran is a bad word here. I forgot. Sorry. Well, I mean, like, oh no, I like the joke. No, I mean, like when you go into like kind of experienced kind of team role player,
sure.
Then you have to be in the LEC before during the prodigy era for it to carry over. Jankos is the example of this. Perks is an example of this, right? Caps probably will become this kind of player in a year or two. Like he's still somewhere, kind of like everybody says he's a bit crazy, right? So he's still kind of somewhere on the prodigy level, right? So my problem with IceBeasto is this: he didn't make it into the LEC as in the prodigy days, and nowadays it's going to be tough for him.
Yes. Actually, since you referenced it, as people may forget, actually, you were the guys who played in the final of that EU Masters, where it was the Origen that was forgiven and Frogger and expected insect, like the weirdest lineup ever, where they just put this team together, and they just the thing people forget is like when they started, even in that tournament, they weren't that good, and then they had to sort of get their shit together as the tournament went on, and at the end they won it, and so anyone who didn't watch it, because back then that was basically the first EU Masters people started watching because of this team, hence the like when does Origen play play joke or whatever. And what people forget is, like, everyone looks back now and goes, well, of course they were supposed to win that tournament. But they don't realise this wasn't a real team. Like, back then, these are real teams they were playing against. These are teams from the National Leagues. These are teams that actually, like, some of the teams they beat on paper maybe should have had a chance against them. What was it like to play against this team? What was this run like for your team? Because obviously it was a tournament where, like I say, you must have thought you had a chance to win.
Yeah. Okay, look, actually, at the very beginning, classic for me, I had a lot of work, and I wasn't with the team at the beginning. And during the groups, we had a 1-2 result, and actually 3 teams made it out of the groups. We made it out like on tiebreakers out of the groups.
Right.
And, it's the same thing as in the ROCCAT days. I finished up my shit. I come to the team, and we start a run. And this was a hectic tournament. We had insane opponents that we barely scraped by. Like, we had this match against Millennium, where, like, this guy, Scarlet Red Hands, I don't know if people remember him anymore, but, like, what else was there? Shit.
Keyrave, Neon. People are going to know these names. Yeah.
Yes. And what's more important, their coach was this guy, Hatchie, who is another Polish guy. So Hatchie is like the second wave coach. I was the first wave coach in Poland. He was the second wave coach. Now we have the third wave coach actually in Poland. But basically, he was the second. So it was an extreme rivalry between me and Hatchie back then. And we barely won that series, like 2-1. I think we also played against another team where we won 2-1 against a Spanish team, I think. Movie Star, maybe? I think we played against
Movie Star
Movie
Riders. Yeah.
We actually, these were games where we won by the skin of our teeth, actually. Like, it was the last team fight. Like,
yeah, that was Magi Felix, Jeskla. These are all known players. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was a hard tournament for us. But you know what? When you have a hard tournament, that hardens you, right? It's funny.
Sure.
And actually, a lot of times, you having a hard time in the bracket before strengthens you when you go forward. Like, this is what happened with Gamers Origin. Because then on LAN, we had this match against Gamers Origin, and everybody was hyping Gamers Origin. Because they're like, look at this Illuminar guys. They got the Woolite meme, and they barely made it through. Right, they barely made it through the tournament. And these Gamers Origin guys, they lost 0 maps in the groups, and I think they lost 0 maps in the playoffs. And, so they went 2-0, 2-0, and then they're facing us. And actually, we were quite sure against them. We're like, this Tinks guy, we just banned his Graves, and I think we discussed Italy, but I don't think we banned Italy. We banned this, and they're finished. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. It was so easy. It was like, we weren't scared of them. We played, very simple League of Legends. Right? I'm a fan of simple League of Legends. I like dumbing down. My approach is that I dumb down the game. I try to make the game as simple as possible for the players, so that during the game they can think about other stuff, right? That's where I hope the creativeness comes out. If the players don't have to think about macro stuff and it's all automated, then they can start being creative, right? Because they don't have to think about the basics. So we were playing very simple composition, like Braum Ornn. It was so simple, right? And just simple engages, late game and stuff like that. And we played scrims. We didn't play against Mad Lions because Mad Lions were on the second part. So that was with Nemesis and Selfmade actually. And during scrims and during everything, these guys were the best. Mad Lions were the best. Nemesis and Selfmade, they were the best duo. They would destroy us. And I thought they would win against Origen. I'm like, this is going to be 2-0. They lost 2-1. Origen won against 2-1 against Mad Lions. That was a big upset. I was sure that Mad Lions would win. And we did scrim against Origen the day before, I think, our Gamers Origin. So we have Gamers Origin and Origen. Oh, my God. This is so complicated. So we scrimmed against Froggen's team the day before our match against Geo. And we actually did lose, 1-3. We actually did win a map. And during those scrims, Froggen would destroy us. He'd destroy us. So when the match came, the final match, I'm like this, I'm telling my mid laner. Actually, I'm telling my mid laner, everything, from the Overpow, everything's going to be good, man. You just pick your pick, everything's good. In my mind I am not going to ban anything against Froggen because that doesn't give a shit. He's still going to win mid lane. I can't do anything about it. So why would I waste? I have to win the game differently. I can't win against Froggen. I have to win differently. And funny thing is, I honestly think there was no way we could win. But we should have had won one map. The second map was won. We basically, we were just taking an inhibitor. We had Baron. We had, 6K advantage. We should have had won that map. And then I think that was a map where Froggen had the crazy Kozioł play. Miasma had 5 people, and then he ulted 3. It was insane. but there was no way we would win that. So it was definitely at least a 3-1 for them. I just think that we should have had 1-1 map at least.
Sure. Now, a player that we've touched on, but we didn't talk about in depth, is VandeR, another guy that was with you, as you said, from way, way back. I mean, if people don't know, he actually used to be an AD carry and he role swapped to support. So it's an interesting angle on that in itself. Who is VandeR to you? Because I think if we use the kind of spectrum you set up earlier, he came from being someone who I assume was a talent in the early days, and most of his career has been being the veteran player, hasn't it? It's been being the guy who's like, I can see why he's sort of shifted into being a team captain now. It kind of makes sense for where he is. And he's also a very interesting guy in as much as, whereas if you talk to a Jankos or some of the more outgoing Polish players, they have that sort of like, very confident, you could say cocky personality. He's always seemed to me a lot more of like a reflective individual. In fact, sometimes maybe that's even played against him. He seems like a guy who sometimes maybe questions himself. Who is VandeR to you? What's his career been like from your side?
So in the ROCCAT day, okay, let's actually start off with the old days. Look, I played with him for a long time in many teams. The first team I played with was the Delta, actually. But the most important team I played with him is this team called LOL. So we actually played in the regionals of season 2. So it was Kikis top, me in the jungle. Mid was Shushay, actually. And bot was VandeR and this guy Grom. So
but you had to play Moscow 5, right?
Yeah, actually, like my tournaments were so unlucky. Heck, I had CLG and Moscow 5 in my group. Sure. And so I had 1-2 and I didn't come out of the group. And in Warsaw, there was a tournament. CLG and Moscow, I do 1-2. And these teams always met up in the finals then, right? So
yes.
And of course, Moscow 5 in the first round of the regionals, right? So really unlucky shit, you know? And back then, yeah, VandeR was just a good player, as you say, right? He was decent, right? He actually, there never was the kind of approach, this guy is a genius. Like when I played with Creaton in the HCL days, I mean, I knew this guy was a genius. Like he'd we'd be playing a professional match. This guy would be just like doing, bunny hops on the opponents, right? Like he'd like take Urgot bot and have like 6-0. Like 6-0 is like a normal game for him. Like nowadays you don't win lane. This guy would just have 6-0, right? So VandeR was not this kind of player. Like you could see that instantly. He was a good player, but he wasn't crazy good as Creator was, right? So as a player, yeah, I have good times with him, right? I've been with him in a couple teams. Now, when I came to ROCCAT, it was the same thing. This guy is just a really good team player. Out of the game, you can talk with him. You can have some funny times with him. You can have some serious times with him. You can discuss the game. As you said, he's not like this kind of hyperactive dude, because Jankos was a little bit of a hyperactive dude. Nowadays, I definitely think he's changed a lot. But VandeR was kind of the quieter guy. But I won't say that he was, a shy guy or anything like that. Maybe he was a little bit more reflective, but this guy is just a really good teammate. And actually, I think VandeR might be the guy that's had the most influence over my whole team movements in my career. I got a question like this like last week or something. Who was the most influential person in my career, right? And actually, I think it's VandeR, because a lot of teams I formed with him. He was the one who, along with Sulliver, came to me and gave me the proposition of becoming a coach. So that's an extremely big, a big change, right? Sure. Which would shape the rest of my career. There were no coaches back then. This was a novel idea, right? And even I didn't want to be a coach, as I said before, right? So VandeR, I think when he was in ELO, he played AD carry, and right after that tournament, he switched to support. And basically, I think that's a good decision from him. Like, as we're discussing now, he wasn't the mechanical genius. As a support, he can still have a lot of say in the team. And this is a guy I would definitely want in my teams, right? He's actually doing really good now, right? Like, I think it's, like, as I was talking about with Woolite before in Rogue, I think it was kind of stupid that he wasn't in the main team of Rogue at the beginning, yes. With the Kikis lineup. I don't see any reason why VandeR shouldn't be there, right? So, VandeR, I just think this guy is a really, right now, experienced, stable guy. And definitely you can work macro around him. Like, just like I had Zazus in remember what I told you with the Zazus macro stuff? Yes. But VandeR was the guy I went to the first day, right? To discuss about the in-depth stuff, that how swaps are played in Korea and why they're played that way. So why? Because I knew this was Jankos, he'd be doing his stuff, Overpow, yeah, we discussed the problems there. Seller was a little bit he was a little bit dim. It's kind of an English sounding word. Sure. He was dim. And VandeR, he's basically just the intelligent guy.
The thinker, cerebral guy.
Yeah, no, he's a really good teammate. And I still think, nowadays, he's not the prodigy anymore, because there was a time where he was, said to be one of the best. Right now, I think that it's really good, to have him as the experienced guy in your team and, put a lot of firepower around him.
Yes. Yeah, makes sense also as a result of what they've done with Rogue. Right, here's a question for you. With no disrespect to the team you've recently been working with, if for some reason, listen, I don't know that it'd happen. It's a 1 in a million chance. But let's say someone watched this interview who actually wants to hire a coach and they're interested in your story, and maybe it's an LEC team, it's a top national league team, someone out there where it would be considered a step up. But do you still have aspirations? Do you still have ambitions? You'd like to coach at the top level of League of Legends?
No, coaching a team is impossible for me unless I quit my job. Because look, the reason why I moved into Polish coaching, and actually throughout the years, I've been a lot of commentary, content creator in Poland and stuff like that, right? So that's like apart from the coaching gig, right? The reason I became a coach in Poland is because I've always been running away from the commitment. Look, as a player, as I told you, I saw that, Jankos is putting in more time. I can't keep up with them anymore, sure. Right? I can't play more. So I ran away from being a player into a coach, where there was no back then there were no other coaches, so I'm the best, right? I didn't have to do anything. I'm the best coach, right? Didn't have to do anything. And then once coaches started becoming popular, right, I had to move into the Polish scene, where obviously the level was much lower than Europe. And again, as an Illuminar, I'm a top, we were the best team. There's no doubt about it. We won every tournament in Poland through 1.5 years, right? Everything. And we did well in European Masters, right? But now, even in Poland, it's hard. So look, you have to be on scrims at least 5 hours a day, right? From 15 to 20. Now, that's like the minimum. Actually, that's shit. You can't just be on scrims. Apart from scrims, you have to do reviews with your players, but you actually, as a coach, have to do your own work, your own solo queue, right? Players play solo queue. You're supposed to be watching Korea. You're supposed to be thinking about the game. You're supposed to be analyzing your own matches. Coaching in Poland is at the level, and in other ERLs, obviously, so the National League level in Europe is already a full or more than full-time job. It's not 8 hours. It's not 9 to 5. It's already a 12 hours a day minimum. Right. Look, now you can see the tent. I have kids. I have other shit, right? So it's impossible for me now. But let me say this. If I had a terminal illness, I'm dead in a year, you know what? I would go and I would try to go to LEC, go out with a bang, right? If I had a choice. But sometimes, as an American, right? This is what why I've been thinking about America a long time. Do you know actually that as a dual citizen, I have to pay taxes in the States and in Poland?
Not alive. Okay.
So look, I actually found this out not long ago. So I made my, made my amends with the U.S. tax system. So I've been thinking about states, right? And look, I just told you that there's at least 5 leagues apart from the LEC in Europe that have full-time coaches 12 hours a day, right? And they're all working on becoming better at League of Legends. And when I hear then the arguments, why is NALCS worse? It's statistics. I just told you. It's simple. There's no argument. You don't have enough people that are working at League of Legends as hard as people in Europe. You're not going to be better. That's why China would always win, because they have the most, the biggest.
Sure. Right, at the end of this interview, do you have a final message, or is there some people from your career you want to thank or shout out or anything?
I just want to say that maybe nowadays I'll move into more of a manager role, actually maybe a talent scout kind of role. I've been thinking about, because I have the experience, I can look at a player and see, I see something in this guy, or I don't see something in this guy, right? So I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about maybe creating my own or, esports organization, a small thing in Poland, and then maybe scale up if things go well. Shout out? I don't know. I guess to the most important people in my career, right? So it would obviously be VandeR. It'd be Jankos, right? I saw Jankos, I don't see him that much anymore because they took away our IEMs, right? Or poor IEMs in Katowice. Sure. So I don't see Jankos that much anymore. But actually, I was in Berlin half a year ago, so I was really, really happy that Jankos found the time to, drink some juice with me, right? So shout out to Jankos, of course. I don't know. I've always been a kind of individual kind of guy. I'm not really the kind of guy who's really thankful to people. Maybe that's not good, right? But mainly I'm my problems are my fault and my successes are my fault. So, so that's my shout out.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję bardzo. Pozdrawiam.
This video was kindly supported by Pronogo, Whattathings, Spencer Green, Soliko, Dean Tanglis, Jack Hanna, Hades, Jensen Goh, the Puyallup Tribe, JDubs, Tobias Bernasconi, Alexander Rao, and a special thanks, as always, goes out to Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you'd like to put a question to me in my monthly video AMA. Do you want teasers for my upcoming content? Or maybe to even take part in an online esports discussion with moi? Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today in the Patreon link in the description box below.